Have you ever wondered what the 10 most profitable cars are to rent out on Turo? Well, today we're going to be breaking that down with actual Turo numbers and real Turo experience because I'm here with the homie Aaron. If you guys remember him, we ran a 50-car Turo fleet in Denver, and he was the one actually managing all of the vehicles. So today we're going to be getting into a bit of a presentation that I put together about all of those cars. And first, how did you actually get into Turo, Aaron?
Well, I had a Jeep break down on me when I was out in Aspen, and it was a terrible experience. And I decided I wanted to buy a car that wouldn't break down on me. And I could not afford any good car at this point in my life. I just didn't want to put a bunch of money into a car. So I was just thinking, how can I have a car that is reliable, that does well for me, but also doesn't cost me a bunch of money? And then I found out about Turo, and I understood that you could buy a car, a really nice car, and you could have people pay you to use the car every once in a while. And so, yeah, I went out and I bought a $40,000 car, and people started paying me for it.
Not bad. And it looks like you also had a Subaru Outback on the fleet. And when you were just managing the vehicles by yourself without co-hosting, the fleet did about $15,000 in 5 months, it looks like. So that's not bad. Did any of these cars make it onto the top 10 list?
Surprisingly, no. When I first jumped into it, buying a $40,000 car, yeah, it was cool and it was exciting, and people paid me, over $2,000 a month for that car. But when we're talking strictly ROI, just return on investment, we're ranking it based on the best return on your investment. So when you put $40,000 into a car, it's hard to have a good ROI because you'd have to make significant amounts of money to put back in your pocket to have a high ROI. Versus some of these cars that we're going to see, I think the highest purchase price on this list is like $20,000, right? So the lower purchase priced cars are going to have a higher ROI from what I've seen. And so we'll go down this list and you'll kind of see that come to life.
Sweet. And starting things off with number 10, we have the 2016 Toyota Highlander. You guys paid $22,539 for it. It looks like it was earning average monthly rents of $1,716.23 with about an 80% utilization rate. And it has an ROI of 36.31% with $8,000 in yearly profit.
Yeah, so this car, and I believe this is the highest priced car on our list. This is the car that kind of kicked things off after I bought my first two cars, because this is the vehicle that my brother Chris purchased for Turo, which is really cool. So he bought this in Virginia, I believe, and we drove it across the country together. And it was kind of like we were on this mission, like we're starting this business. This is the first car. Let's start this thing up. And got a flat tire on the way out. Had a fun little drive out there. But yeah, we did really well on that first purchase with Chris. Obviously learned a bit from the few vehicles that I had purchased already. And yeah, happy to see that it made the list, the top 10.
It's funny, you still made Chris pay a management fee?
Yeah, Chris was paying a management fee. We decided if we're clients of our own business, we got to charge ourselves management fees, right?
Makes sense.
So now the 30%, that becomes 15% when we're split down the middle. So realistically, his management fee was what, like 85%, 85-15. It did pretty well for him. I'm pretty happy with that.
Sweet. And moving on to number 9. This is where you really see the cheap cars come to life. One thing I've noticed is that cheap cars that are more like SUVs that have a little bit more space than a sedan tend to do really well on Turo. This car was bought for 14 grand, 73% utilization rate, $1,242.97 in monthly revenue. And then, of course, you've got the management fee. And after all expenses, a 38.73% ROI.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And yeah, like you said, the lower price cars are going to come in hot here. Something to note here, if you're someone who hasn't looked at ROI numbers before and you don't really know what a good ROI number is for a passive investment, the best comparison you can make is the stock market, right? Because the stock market, you take $14,000, put it into the stock market, and on average, what does it go up by, Will? It's S&P 500 is what?
About
8, 9%.
8%, 8 to 10% a year.
Yeah. So if we can beat that out and we beat it out by 30% on this car, then it's a good passive investment.
Yeah, and it's definitely good for cash flow, right? So it's like it's different than real estate in a sense that with real estate, your cash flow isn't usually that good, but you are building like appreciation in the property and like equity. With cars, the vehicle obviously depreciates. You accounted for a 15% depreciation annually. One thing that I actually prefer to do, which sometimes is tough when you have a huge fleet, is to go by mileage, and that mileage can range. If it's a new car, it could be 12 to 15 cents a mile. If it's a used car, it's maybe 8 to 10 cents a mile, 8 to 12 cents a mile if it's, kind of in that in between. But a 15% sounds about right because Turo cars do get driven quite a bit. So it's good to buy them a little bit used so that you already had a lot of that depreciation.
Yeah, and what you'd also notice on a car that is this old is once it gets past like 5 years old on the vehicle, the depreciation curve, if you look across the internet on any depreciation curve out there, it's dipping quite a lot. Like buy a car, drive it off the lot. If you bought a new car, that car just lost what, 20% of its value instantly. But as we go forward, as we get older vehicles, the depreciation curve goes way, way down. So 15%, I think it might be even less than that for a used car, even though it has higher mileage. But I wanted to put in very fair numbers here and make sure that the ROI figures were as accurate as we can make it.
Moving on to number 8, 2014 Subaru Crosstrek Hybrid. You guys paid $10,593 for it. I can already tell you that sounds like a great Turo car to me. I really like Subarus because they're tend to be pretty reliable as a company. Japanese cars are just known for being able to be treated a little bit like shit, and they still keep going. This car has a 41.96% ROI, only 1,057 in average monthly revenue. But because you had lower expenses, it looks like it still did pretty well. I'm actually surprised. I guess just because you got the car so cheap that the ROI looks really solid.
Like you said, the brand is very important because it makes sure that the car stays on the platform. If you get some brand that's always breaking, and I'm going to show one of the worst cars that we bought in this list as well, so stay tuned for that. So if you get a brand that is staying off the platform because of all the issues that the car is going to have, then that's not a good Turo car. This being a Subaru, it's going to stay on the platform, and it's a hybrid, so people want to get this car when they're renting it because it costs them less to drive, right? So the hybrid was a great purchase. Now, funny story with this car is, I don't know if you remember, Will, but this car was performing really well, did great, and then we had two pretty bad occurrences with this. The first one was our mechanic was putting tires back on the car, and he didn't tighten all the lug nuts down. So the guest was driving with this car, and the tire fully flies off the car. And the guest called me and said he watched the tire fly past him, and he started skidding on the road.
And he was like up in the mountains too. I remember this.
Yeah, this was crazy.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, dude, that could have been bad. That
it
could
could
have
have
been
been
bad.
so
But
bad. So I'm really glad that didn't go terribly. Obviously, we refunded him everything for the trip. Luckily, somebody came out to tow him, and the tow truck driver said, "Hey, look, this tire is totally fine. The wheel is totally fine on the car. Let's just put it back on. You're going to be able to drive." So he was actually able to finish his trip, which is great. But then shortly after his trip finished, it went on to another trip and came back, and it was stolen from the parking lot.
yep, it was stolen from the airport. I remember this, but you
Yeah.
luckily got an insurance payout, which is, I think it was even more than you actually paid for the car, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So everything kind of ended up working out well. But it's
Yeah,
when I look at this car, it just makes me stressed.
it's funny because it still had a 75% utilization rate with all that. So it was probably getting booked all the time. And then it had that
Yeah.
like period with those issues. But Dude, yeah. I mean, I remember that this car actually. I remember when it got stolen, but luckily it worked out. It was back when we were on the Lula insurance still, because we were a little bit
Hmm.
worried because we were like, oh, I don't know, it's a newer insurance company, but everything worked out. We ended up getting paid out. The client ended up profiting and all that. But yeah, that's kind of a crazy situation.
Yeah,
That's
that one
funny.
was a very fun one.
Another Subaru, number 7, 2014 Subaru Outback, $13,255. I remember this car actually. We purchased it for this guy, JR Rivas. I did a video with
Mhm.
him on my main channel. He's like a Airbnb host. He does real estate stuff. He used to have like a tax business back in the day. And I met him through Aaron when I was out in Denver one of the times. And, it was funny. He was doing a lot of Airbnb stuff, and Aaron told him about Turo. And they kind of like, and JR was like, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. And his car ended up having an 88% utilization rate, $1,221 in average monthly revenue, and about a 40% ROI after everything.
Yeah, this was a great one because we bought it well below market value for him. So he was just making money every single month. Sorry, what was kind of crazy was at at one point, because of how many expenses were coming in for us, and we were trying to like run ads and we were trying to do all this stuff like as a business owner, I was looking at his numbers, and there were months where I was like, dang, he almost made as much money as I made this month from running the business.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of crazy. So I'm happy that his car did really well. He did a really unique thing with it too. And he bought the car cash, and then he went to a bank with the title and got a title loan for like about the value of the car pretty much at like a really low interest rate. And then he like basically like refinanced it, and then he used the money for something else. It was like something unique. He did a TikTok about it, and it went kind of viral. So it's funny that this
Yeah.
car made it onto the list because I definitely remember this one.
And I remember Aubrey actually did a video about him doing that.
Yes, she reacted to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny. Moving on to number 6, I also remember this car. It's a 2015 Nissan Versa. $7,909 is what we paid for it. So you guys can probably see that the ROI was that good because the vehicle was so cheap. 45.99%. Average monthly revenue, just $913.81. This is one of those cars you can rent for like 40 bucks a day. Someone just looking for a cheap, not really a shit box, but a cheap basic compact vehicle. This vehicle was, it's funny. I didn't even tell my family friend about it, but one of my dad's friends from like my hometown saw my YouTube video the first time I ever came out to film with you guys in Denver. And he's like into real estate. He's a real estate agent, and he saw this and he's like, you know what? Let me buy a Turo car. And he actually bought 2 cars with you guys, a Nissan Versa, and I think the Nissan Murano actually, which was
Yeah.
also on the list earlier. And he bought those 2 cars, and it seems like it did pretty well for him. So it's funny that I actually remember a lot of these vehicles looking back at it.
Yeah, and this one, obviously that's a stock image, but this Nissan was so trashed. Like I think from the date we purchased it, it was just a gross, grimy, terrible car. Obviously, it got rented well because it's so cheap, but it was such a trash car. And when you have a trash car like this, you get such bad renters. Like
Hmm.
all of the renters would, they were just the worst. So many headaches came from this car because people would smoke in it, people would not care about the car, people would return it incorrectly, but it made money, it made good ROI for them.
Yeah, and another thing about it is, I remember that this was during the era that we were buying cars from auction. So that's something we kind of learned. You can make a lot of value buying cars from auction because you're getting them cheaper than what they're, selling for retail. But sometimes they have unexpected things. So you'll look at it on paper and it seems like a great deal. But when the car has, it's really dirty inside and it's hard to really clean it up perfectly, yeah, you're going to have some issues. It's similar to like my Ford Fiesta. I was looking at it on Carfax, looks like it's a great deal, but in reality, it needs a lot of work. Moving on to car number 5, we have yet another Subaru Outback. This time it's a 2016 purchase for $13,739. It has an ROI of 41% annually, monthly revenue of $1,266.23. Seems like Subarus do really well. It does well in my market. I live in Wisconsin, so we've got those cold winters. People love Subarus. It attracts really good renters too, because you get like the mom type of people with like a family going to the airport. Just really good renters I've noticed with the Subaru, and 82.27% utilization rate. I don't remember this car exactly, but we had a lot of Subarus.
I think that Subaru started out being marketed to lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
pretty sure
lesbians are
that's a
probably
thing.
good renters, low key.
And I think that they low key might be the best renters
Yeah.
because they're gonna take care of the car. It's 2 women, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
women are kind of the best renters.
yeah, the best. No issues, you know? So, it's a great car in that sense, and just a Colorado car in general. When you're thinking about a car in Colorado, you want something that does okay on the gas mileage. This one does, because people are going out to the mountains and back, and then you need something that's all-wheel drive. So in Denver, this kind of checks the boxes. It's just such a Denver car. I think I'm trying to remember if I'm right on this, but I think this was JR's business partner was the one that bought this.
Phil?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
sweet.
could be wrong.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
So
Yeah,
they
and
were both killing it.
they both got their own Subaru. That's
Yeah,
pretty baller.
yeah.
Moving on, Turo car number 4, the 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee, $19,910. I believe we had a few Jeeps on the fleet. We had one really, really nice Jeep. I remember it was like red. It was like a top
Mhm.
line Jeep, probably like a $50,000-$60,000 Jeep. This must have not been that. I think this was one of the cars we maybe bought from. Did we buy this from auction or no?
I don't totally remember. There were so many
Yeah,
cars coming in and out.
I don't think so,
Um,
because it's a little bit nicer than an auction car would be.
yeah, and we have a lot of clients. We don't buy cars for every single client. There's some clients that come in with their vehicle already, and
Mhm.
then we would just use their vehicle value as like the investment price so that we can perform these ROI calculations. This might be one of those. I could be wrong, but the Grand Cherokee is just such a another great Denver car, and it's sneaky cheap. Like you wouldn't expect this to be a $20,000 car, but it
Especially for
is.
as new as it was back then. Like, that's almost like a pretty new car at that point, probably like 2 years old, maybe
Mhm.
at the time we were renting it out. It made 1650 in monthly revenue, 41% ROI. Number 3, this is a weird one. A 2016 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, $11,099 is what was paid for the vehicle. It has a 46.28% ROI. $48.86 is the average daily rate, 78% utilization rate, and not bad.
Yeah, this one is a super boring car, and it just works. I had a lot of people that would drive this car and then tell me how boring the car was.
Really?
Like, guests would drive the car and be like, "This was such a boring car, but it works." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, that's we're not looking for anything flashy here. You know,
Fair
we're
enough.
just looking for the ROI number to be as good as we can get it."
So it didn't have any of the bells and whistles, probably no heated seats, nothing crazy, but it got the
Yeah.
job done.
I think one of the renters described it as driving a loaf of bread. I don't know what that means.
That's kind of funny. Moving on, number 2, a 2016 Subaru Outback, $13,189, 45% ROI, 79% utilization rate. Typical. Subarus seem like good
Mhm.
cars, especially in cold areas. If you're in Texas, if you're in Arizona, you might be better off just renting sedans, not spending the extra money. But if you're in a cold weather market and you want your vehicles to do well, especially when there's a lot of snow on the ground, it seems like getting those like SUV cars, especially in the Denver market or out in the mountains that are used, seems to be the move.
Yeah, it's just a sensible purchase. It if you look at this list, it's all just it's Subaru with some other cars sprinkled in is what it seems like.
The client for this car was probably a subscriber from the YouTube videos, right? Or you probably don't know this person.
We had so many Subarus that I don't know whose was whose. You know?
Before we move on to the most profitable car in the fleet, we have the 2015 Kia Sorento. This was the worst performing vehicle on the entire fleet. It ended up being quite an L for us. Aaron, do you want to tell a little bit of the story?
Oh my God. Well, all right. It wouldn't have been that bad, but there was a mechanic who I was recommended to, and I brought the car to this mechanic, and it literally sat in the mechanic shop for, I want to say it was like closing in on a year. So basically, the issue with it was the engine had like some engine knocking going on, and I think the engine needed to be replaced. But luckily, we had a warranty on the car. So we go in, and mechanics, they hate doing warranty work because it's just so much hassle for them. So they just never really did it. And I had to like go in, check in probably weekly. Hey, how's the car coming? How's the car coming? And I couldn't really move it. Like they had already opened it up and done a diagnosis, and the warranty company paid them money already. And they just didn't do the work. And so it just sat there. It just sat for the longest time. I wonder if I can find the name of the mechanic shop so I can name drop them. But yeah, so it just sat there. They didn't do anything, and it absolutely tanked the ROI on this car.
Dude, that's so frustrating for the client too. Cause I remember you had a video of when this happened to a guest on a trip. Like the engine just started knocking and you had to get the car towed. There was a whole situation I remember. And then it sat in the shop for a long time because you had a warranty that'd cover the repair and that whole situation.
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, it was definitely a headache, but
But I
at
mean,
least it wasn't on the road, so we had no guest issues.
sweet. Oh, it wasn't rented out when that happened?
Well, while it was sitting at the mechanic shop, it was
Oh,
not.
makes
Obviously, like,
sense.
yeah, it was rented out when the engine went bad.
But
Um,
moving on to the number one car on the fleet. It is a 2015 Nissan Pathfinder. Paid $11,880 for it. A 74.39% ROI, 87.83% utilization rate, $60.87 average daily rate. And that is actually averaged out over like including the non-utilization. So, right, if it's rented for 20 days at 80 bucks, it averages out, to 1600 over 30 days. So it seems like it had a really good daily rate and
yeah.
it was a great car.
Yeah, this car absolutely crushed it. We got a good purchase price on it. This one was another one. Actually, my other brother purchased this car, so lucky him.
Adam.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a three-row vehicle. One of the cheat codes with these larger vehicles is not only are they well rented in somewhere like Colorado, but you can use them as a tax write-off. So because a vehicle is over 6,000 pounds, you can depreciate the entire value of the vehicle in the year that you purchase it. So this is one of those vehicles that it would apply. I don't think we really knew about this tax strategy at the time, but this is just a beautiful vehicle for Turo.
Oh wow. Dude, that's baller. And moving on to current day. So you no longer manage like all 50 cars by yourself. Instead, you work with a bunch of co-hosts to like find fleets like throughout the US.
Yeah, so essentially what happened, we kind of got to the point where I was working a lot on like the investor relations, helping investors find cars, helping them put it onto the platform. And oh, also I had to manage this massive fleet of cars. So it was just way too much. It didn't really make sense for me to be managing the cars at all. So we started having conversations with other fleets that would want to take on cars. And we passed on a lot of those contracts to other fleets in the area. And then I kind of sat back and I was thinking, all right, look, we have this whole setup in Denver where we can help somebody buy a car, hands off, put it onto the platform with a fleet that we trust. So why don't we just look throughout the United States for the best markets all over the United States? And so that's what I did. I looked throughout the United States. I found the best markets. I found the best hosts. And now what we do is we still provide the same service, but nationwide. So if you want to put a car on Turo and invest money, totally passive, you talk to me. We find the right vehicle that's a high ROI vehicle based on all of the data. We buy that vehicle with you, totally hands off, totally remote, and then that car goes onto the platform with a vetted partner like the financial wolf.
Funny enough, I actually manage a car for one of the clients that Aaron got, and I'll give you guys a look at the numbers. So I started renting it out in January, it was a little bit of a competition because this client came to Aaron. He's like, hey, I want to put a few cars on Turo, but I don't want to manage them. So try to find me like the best markets. Aaron recommended one. And I was telling Aaron, I'm like, dude, I have a small fleet. I think I could absolutely crush it for this guy. And then Aaron told him about it. And he's like, you know what? Let's try it. Let's do one car on this fleet, one car on that fleet. So I have a little bit of a competition going. I want to do better than the other fleet that the guy has the car on. So in the first month, the vehicle did $1,029 in revenue, and we had a problem. Someone smoked in the car, and this is the worst smelling guest I've ever had in my entire life. The dude smelled absolutely terrible. And on top of that, he had cigarettes just like half lit, thrown on the ground, like ash everywhere. And then Turo denied my smoking claim. Absolutely crazy. Like one of the unluckiest events ever. So I had to like air out the car for like 3 days trying to get all the smell out, all that stuff. So unfortunately, it only made $1,029 in January. This month should be better. The month is kind of just starting. So hopefully we do like 12 to 1300 on the Corolla, which I know that sounds crazy for a Corolla, but obviously after the 30% cut, he's probably looking at, 6 to 700 a month and after expenses. So hopefully I'm able to beat the other car. And this was paid, he paid like $9,500, I believe, for the Toyota Corolla. So not bad.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, with that first month right there, he's getting $700 for sitting back and letting you manage a car, which is pretty cool. Hopefully we'll be able to pass some more cars your way. Hopefully we're killing it with you.
Hell yeah. Do you want to break down like the total stats? So this is on all of the
Yep.
cars that you rent out.
So this is among the top, I think it's the top 25% of vehicles that we've placed onto the platforms. So with those vehicles, this is kind of the stats, right? So $455.87 of monthly cash flow. The average ROI on those vehicles, and again, we're trying to beat out the stock market. Average ROI is 32.3%. And then the average purchase price of those vehicles is going to be $17,136. So if you're thinking about putting money into something like this, and most people are saying, hey, look, when you're buying a car for Turo, you got to buy a $40,000, $50,000 car. Well, based on what I've seen, don't do that. Like 17,000 is about where I'd expect you to come in.
Yeah.
Hopefully less.
And I would also say that for people in warm weather markets, they might even be able to get away with a car like cheaper than that, because in the colder weather locations, you might want to get an SUV and spend that few extra thousand. But if you're in like a really warm market, I feel like you can get away with that like cheaper Toyota Corolla under like 10 grand ish as a budget. So those seem to be great ROI cars, but obviously you can make a lot of money too if you get like a Subaru, etc. It really just depends. But one thing I do want to mention is that next week we're actually going to a convention down in Orlando with a ton of Turo hosts. So definitely comment down below who you guys want us to have as guests on the podcast. I just pre-filmed 2 other episodes, so we're going to be posting consistently, and I'm excited because we're going to be out in Orlando. I think Aubrey Janique might be there. Beep Beep Laney. I don't know if you know her. She's like a TikTok.
Yeah.
You know her, right? Yeah. She's got like a TikTok account. I think she does YouTube too, but I hope we can get her on the podcast. A bunch of other people should be fun.
And I know there's a guy in Kentucky, I think Antonio Bowman. He's got a pretty good presence. Alvin in Jacksonville, he crushes it.
You work with him too, right? For the fleet?
Yeah, and he's one of the individuals we work with. There's a few of the people that I've worked with in Denver are going to be there. Some random people that I've like talked to online that I've never seen in person are going to be there. So it's going to be pretty cool. I'm very excited for this. And it's all power hosts. So it's the top players too.
Exactly. So the goal is when we go out there to film a couple podcast episodes with some cool people, try to get like 5-6 episodes in person. So starting next week, those will be coming out for you guys. I'm hyped. It should be cool.
Yeah, let's get it. That's next stop.
On that note, if you guys made it to the end, drop a like. If you want to put a car on the fleet, you know where to check it. The description's the place. And on that note, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.